Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Angel Sanchez. I'm a lifelong Riverside resident and business leader here in the city. And it's my absolute honor to introduce all of you to one of our newest city council members and my city council member, representing Ward 3, Mr. Stephen Robillard. And it's an honor to have you here. And I'm
Pleasure
excited.
being here.
We've talked on a number of occasions, and I'm looking forward to all the good work you're going to do to represent the city and especially my ward, selfishly. So today we have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
And I want to get to know a little bit more about you, but more importantly, I want the residents of Riverside to understand a little bit about your past and what you're looking forward to in the future. And so, maybe the next 30 seconds or so, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so, born and raised in the city here. Went to school at Wilcrest Christian, then I went to RCC and UCR, graduated with my degree in political science. I was also a police cadet for 3 years while I was in college for Riverside PD, and met my wife, got married shortly after college, and got into the family business of commercial real estate. Been doing that for the last 10 years and putting down roots here in Riverside, and really getting to appreciate the city I call home.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the city. I want to start and look at some prioritization. And, given the challenge our city faces, improving security or safety, better schools, fixing roads, simple things like that we experience, and at the same time, growing our economy. What problems do you think that the city should really start to tackle first? And how do we also respect those needs of the future?
Sure. So specifically in my ward, I see the biggest priority is a lot of catching up with businesses and residents who felt like they were not being heard, not being listened to by the city. There's a lot of little issues across the city, getting your streets paved, having the trees trimmed, having your trash picked up on time. I see that as priority number one, making sure we do the basics of a city function and make sure we do those well and sufficiently. So that's priority number one. And once we can get that kind of tackled, we move on to public safety. Public safety is obviously a huge part of everyone's priority. Everyone I talked to when I was knocking doors mentioned public safety as being a top priority. And I think there's several ways we can do that. Number one is making sure our police department is fully staffed. We are on our way to that, but I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that we get to that fully staffed position, because then, when you call the police and they don't show up for a couple hours, it's a real negative feeling for a lot of people. And so that's a priority number two for me, is making sure our public safety is up to par, because I think a lot of things in the economy run downhill of public safety. So if you're a resident and you don't feel safe in your neighborhood, you're not going to go out and spend money in your neighborhood. And if you are a business owner and you don't feel like your business is being protected, you're not going to spend money on your business. And so once we have public safety in place, the parts of the economy will follow after that. Another thing is prioritizing new development and new businesses in Riverside. I've heard from several businesses who've had difficulty in the past with just the timelines and getting things approved and getting things started. And, that is a priority that I've talked with our city manager about, that we are already in the process of implementing new reforms and changes that will help speed up the process so we can get more businesses open, paying tax dollars, more people buying stuff in our city. And when you have more foot traffic to areas, it also improves the safety when you have a lot more foot traffic. And so I think that is a way of balancing the public safety and the needs of the residents with the needs of the business community.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of hit on the community engagement piece of that. And, one of the most common concerns is that residents kind of just feel out of touch. They don't feel that their council members available for them, or that city government's even available for them. How do you plan on maintaining kind of an open line of communication with your constituents? And do you have a plan for incorporating their feedback and their thoughts in your actions as a member of the council?
Yeah, absolutely. So, communication's absolutely key to being a city councilman. I may think I know what's going on or what the problems are in the city, but I guarantee you residents are going to tell me what those problems are. And so I'll have my list of priorities, but those will always be balanced against the priorities of the residents. If I see certain parts of my community that are being forgotten about, or there's certain areas that really need to take a priority, that need to be taken care of, those go to the top of the list. And so between me and my staff, that's a priority that we can make sure we get back to residents within 24 hours. We may not always have a good answer for them. We may have we don't know, or we can't help you, or whatever it may be, but I'm going to get you an answer. I'm not going to leave you hanging, because it's the worst thing to call somewhere asking for help and then have no reply. And so that's first step, is rebuilding that trust and that connection to the residents. You know, first thing I'm going to be doing in office is I'm going to be reaching out to a lot of the business owners in the different areas of the commercial areas of our city who have a lot of break-ins, have a lot of vandalism and things like that, and they honestly feel left behind. And that's priority number one, is building that trust back, building that relationship back between the city and the residents. And I'm going to take a good charge of that.
Good. I mean, that's an important thing. I know as a business leader and a resident, that's the most important thing, is just getting a response. And even if you can't make a change right then, knowing that we're heard, that's an important part. So great. Let's talk a little bit about economic development. So we know economic growth, it's absolutely fundamental to our sustainment and our overall success. And really, it's what's going to help us overcome these challenges that you kind of talked about. Can you outline, briefly, a strategic plan that you have to not only attract new businesses, but maybe more importantly, ensure that the existing businesses have the ability to thrive and offer sustainable, good paying jobs?
Sure. So in Ward 3, there is, it's a very, very big ward. It stretches from one end of the city to the other end of the city, basically. But we do have the Riverside Airport, which is a huge part of our city that I think has been neglected for a very, very long time. That you go down there, the tarmac where the runway is falling apart. You can literally pick up handfuls of rocks. And, we have a growing aviation program between pilot training, aviation technicians. CBU has a big presence there, and they're looking to expand. And there's a whole west side of the airport that hasn't been touched yet. It's empty land, ripe for development. And so I think making the airport a focus, it also qualifies for a lot of federal grants, because it's a federally approved airport. So we can start going after a lot of those grants to improve the runway and improve the infrastructure over there. So it's not all out of our pocket. I think we'll go a long way of providing good jobs and also training for these new jobs. And so I think that's a key part. The flight school, there's several schools over there that a lot of people don't know about. And so expanding the footprint of the airport and having the operations capability upgraded, I think will be a huge economic success for our ward. And beyond that, we have several commercial centers, and they're varying in ages. I love that at the corner of Van Buren and Arlington, you have the new Stater Brothers shopping center there, the Chick-fil-A, and they're doing great over there. And the center of our ward, Magnolia Center, you have the Brockton Arcade, which is a great historic part of our city. So many small businesses there that love being there and love the kind of the old school small town feel of the area, but they have been hit hard with the homeless, the vagrancy, the professional crime people that are breaking in on a regular basis. And beyond that, you have a lot of aging infrastructure in that area. And so I've already spoken with several community leaders, business owners who own buildings over there, as well as our city manager, Riverside Public Utilities, and we're going to be coming together with a comprehensive plan to kind of revitalize the area, to take care of our businesses there, because there's a lot of businesses that have been there for 50 years, and they, are struggling. And if we can reinvest back into them, they're going to have the people that come there and visit there it's going to be a return on investment for us. And so I see that as another priority for me.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. So part of that economic development plan is going to have to incorporate housing. And we know that we're kind of challenged with both affordable housing as well as homelessness. And you touched on that a little bit. Those are both challenges that are significant. What innovative solutions or policies do you propose that maybe will help to address some of these issues, and how will you work with local organizations and nonprofits and other agencies to try to make things happen?
Sure. So what we're looking at with the housing problem is a statewide, nationwide really problem, and it is a shortage of all kinds of housing. When you talk about affordable housing, most people from my generation still can't afford to buy a house, and you can make pretty good money and still not afford it. And so the only answer I see to that is you cannot subsidize your way out of that hole. You have to allow new building, and a lot of new building, and speed up the process of which these approvals go through. I'm in the home development industry. I've experienced it firsthand, how difficult it can be to build a new home community, whether it's the state regulations, city regulations. A lot of times you have insurance rates to think about. You have there's so many different things that go into the development of a new housing tract that really impact and slow down the development. And so if as a city, we can streamline that process, take a lot of the guesswork out of it. So a lot of times developers, we can pay more fees. You can pay whatever fee you need to have to build the product you want to build. But if you have uncertainty and delays, that's what kills the project. And so working with our planning department to streamline the process to make sure we're not adding extra things that we don't need to add to it, so to ensure that we're still building safe and quality products, but it's at a pace that we can afford. Because, as anyone knows, a house 4 years ago is probably about $100,000 cheaper, or $100,000 more expensive than it was 4 years ago. Yeah. And so if we can build more housing to allow people to get in while it's still affordable before, if it takes 4 years, 5 years to develop a new house, that house went from being affordable to now unaffordable. And so that's a priority of mine for as far as the housing goes. When it comes to the homeless, that's a huge, topic of conversation. That was the number one priority that a lot of people were asking me about. And there's no silver bullet. There's no one thing that we can do to really fix the problem. But I think there are 3 things that I think are already happening or on their way that we can capitalize on to kind of take care of the homeless issue. Number 1 is going to be, it's a philosophy, but something that's already happening, is called rehab villages. So Sacramento already passed a bill that allows for funding for these things. And what essentially it is a small campus for 30 to 40 individuals dealing with mental health or drug addiction. And it is various stages of acuity. And the idea being like they have the services and the facilities there for them. But the key part of it is it's not a huge facility in one area that's going to attract everyone from the region and then overrun and overwhelm the system. You build these across the county in other areas where they don't have any facilities available, so that way we're sharing the burden of our mentally ill and the addicted across the county. As it stands right now, Riverside City is the county seat. So a lot of the county facilities are all here in our city, and when they run out of room, they get released right outside into our city. So we're bearing the burden for the whole county. And we don't have walls around our county, so people can come from anywhere and take advantage of these facilities. And so by building small facilities across the county and across the state, you're spreading that burden out so no one municipality will be overwhelmed, and we can properly take care of the people who do need help. The second part of that is enforcement. So a lot of these people, it takes about 25 contacts from city staff before they accept services. And, those are numbers that we can't handle. That takes way too long to get people help. And so one thing I am excited about is there going to be a new proposition on the ballot this November that our DA, Mike Hestron, is putting together. Essentially what it will do is allow for the drug addicted to now get the help they need. So if you're caught for the 3rd time with hard drugs, you can either go to jail with a felony, or you can go to rehab. So it gives them that option to get their life back on track. The 4th time, you're eligible for prison time. And that's the enforcement side of things that will allow them to force them to get in that system. And the reason why that's so important is, dealing with personal experience. My uncle was addicted and homeless for 20 years, living in Fairmount Park, on the railroad tracks there. And he was on the railroad tracks contemplating suicide because he tried to get clean so many times and he couldn't stay clean. And later that day, this is when we still had the 3 strikes law, he got arrested for his 3rd strike for theft, and he had a 3-year prison sentence. And, he told me if it wasn't for that prison sentence, he wouldn't have gotten sober, because he finally had enough time between his last high and going into treatment that he can prove to himself that, hey, I can stay clean for 3 years, so I can now go through treatment and therapy and be able to stay clean. And he stayed clean for the rest of his life. And so you still have to want to be clean, but for those who need that help, who need that supervision, this is that pathway for them. Because we don't want them to be locked up forever, but we just need that mechanism to get them into the help they need.
Get them clean.
And get them clean, and exactly. And so That's one process. The other part of the proposition is theft. You know, so many times you walk into a Walgreens, you will see someone walk out with a handful of stuff they didn't pay for, and that is killing local businesses. It's killing a lot of these big businesses that are like, why are we staying here? Why, you know? Then that's why you have to have glass in front of your razor blades, and you have to ask for help to buy razor blades. You know, and so what this will do is the third time, it doesn't matter how much you steal, the third time you're eligible for a felony, your fourth time you're eligible for prison time. And that'll really, those two things, those two new regulations when it comes to criminality will really help tap down the homeless problem that that's visible and that people are really bothered by. So yeah, the second part is enforcement. And so once we get the enforcement in place, we can start really taking advantage of the people who are, we can focus the rest of the resources on people who are down their luck. Single moms who are in between jobs, students who are living in their cars, these people who need our help and deserve our help. We can then focus on those resources on helping those individuals once we have the criminal aspect of it kind of taken care of. And then the third thing is, as I said before, is creating more housing and more opportunities for housing. When it comes to affordable housing, there is a forgotten aspect of that, which is the senior population.
Sure.
In Riverside, our senior population is going to quadruple over the next 5 years. And as we know, the boomer generation is entering this retirement era, and sure enough, they're going to be, you know, as maybe people know, a lot of this generation has very large homes that are, it's just the two people living in them or one person living in them. And if they sold them and tried to downsize, their property taxes would increase and having a new mortgage. And so they're stuck in their large homes. And so if we don't provide enough senior resources, and that includes senior housing, then we're going to have a devastating tidal wave of, as they pass away or move out of state, it'll be a tidal wave of housing, which creates affordability in a way, but it can crash the economy at the same time. And so if we don't have resources for those people to downsize and to have the healthcare they need and the amenities they need, then we're going to have a huge problem in the next 15 to 20 years. And so it takes planning now to take care of that.
All right, so what, Ward 3, I live there, I know, but let's tell the rest of the residents, what makes Ward 3 unique?
Well, it's a very, very diverse ward, and a lot of it has to do with the history of it. A lot of the mid-century modern design is located in Ward 3. A lot of the architectural story is told through our ward, and I think it's the small community feel. We have the plaza, we have the Victoria Woods area with the airport, but people feel really connected to community, and there's very specific areas, and people get a lot of pride. You know, there's a lot of little streets that have different celebrations during the holidays, during the 4th of July, Memorial Day, and they decorate for Christmas and Halloween. And I live between those streets, and my family visits them, and it's really fun to see that pride that people have for their city. And a lot of these people have been here for their entire life, and it's a really cool part of the city to experience the history and that story that tells.
They're one of the few that still have black parties.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
So that's great. All right, so those are the easy questions. Let's get to the hard questions. We're going to do a little speed round. I'm going to ask you, just get to know you. No more getting into the hardcore political questions. Just getting to know you a little bit better. And so to start off with, how would you describe Riverside in one word?
Diverse.
Ooh, all right. Cats or dogs?
Cats.
Cats, really? All right, you're the first out of the three. You have
I just to tell you, my dog is at my in-laws' house because we were out of town for the weekend, and we came home yesterday, and we were like, "Wow, it's really peaceful around here without the dog."
Cats are kind of
chill.
Take care of them.
Yes.
They're chill. All right.
Yeah.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee. Me too. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
All right. Mountains or beach?
Beach.
You know these answers. Then.
Yep.
What about this? How about, do you like to cook or do the dishes?
I like to cook.
All right.
Yeah, definitely like to cook.
Me too.
Yeah.
If you were able to travel in time, knowing you can come back, would you rather go 20 years in the future or 20 years in the past?
20 years in the future for sure.
See what's coming up ahead?
Yeah.
Excellent. We can know who wins the next 20 World Series.
Yes.
And speaking of that, sports, what sports do you like?
Baseball, football. longtime Angels fan, but they're making it hard for me, and so Dodgers are creeping up on that list.
Well, I'll keep pushing you to get you over to the Dodgers side.
Yeah.
All right. How about sunny or rainy days? We've had a lot of rain lately.
I'm really appreciating the sunny days now because I didn't used to, but I realize now that the rainy days are kind of gloomy.
They are a little bit.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. And the last question I have to ask you, because I know this is breaking news. It's my understanding the family's growing a little bit.
Yes.
We're at a new Riverside resident. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we have one son right now. He's 2.5, and he's just an absolute joy and delight. And so we said, why not have another kid? And so we have a little girl on the way. She'll be here in around Labor Day, and we're really excited about it. And that's part of the reason why I ran for city council is I was going to raise my family here, and if this is my my home and my community and somewhere I'm going to raise my children, I want to be a part of the benefit of it and the positive change in the community.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, again, I'm honored to have this opportunity, especially being my council member. Congratulations to you and your wife.
Thank you.
And hopefully it's a nice, smooth pregnancy for her.
Yes.
And we look forward to welcoming this new bundle of joy.
Thank you.
Thank you all for watching this and getting to know a little bit more about all three of our council members. We appreciate taking the time, and we look forward to seeing their success for the years to come.